And we're back. Today we're going to discuss hair cutting. Now, in the Cosmetology book, it lumps it all together. In the Barber book, it separates men's hair cutting from women's hair cutting. And the reason they do this is most of the material in the men's hair cutting chapter for the barbers has to do with clippers. They kind of skip right over this for the cosmetologist, and so do the teachers. Whether they don't think it's important or they don't know how, I'm not sure. But you can expect to see, as a cosmetologist, a number of questions about clippers, which generally the cosmetologists do not know the answers to. Some do. There's an exception to every rule, right? That's why they say the exception that proves the rule. But my experience of decades tells me cosmetologists tend not to know very much to nothing about clippers. And barbers tend to know little to nothing about shear cutting. And what does the state board exam do? They will ask barbers mostly shear cutting questions and cosmetologists mostly clipper cutting questions. Now there are two schools of thought here. If you're inclined to look at things positively, you will say, well, the reason they do that is to make sure that you are well educated and equipped and know how to do both. If you are inclined to look at things negatively, you will say they do it deliberately to make you fail your test. They've gone out of their way to ask you things they know that you were not taught in school. So whether you're a positive or negative person, it doesn't really matter on test day. What matters on test day is passing your test. So you will need to know both clippers and shears. Now, there's a couple of things you'll need to keep in mind. Okay? There are different degrees or angles for hair cutting. Whether clippers or shears makes no difference. There's 0, 45, 90, and 180. They're going to ask you, what is the most common angle or degree in women's hair cutting? What is the most common angle or degree in men's hair cutting? Which angle or degree is used for long layers? Which angle or degree is used for blunt haircut? And here's the tricky part. Depending upon what book you look in, the blunt haircut, we've all seen it. It's pretty much usually around this length. It's all one length, okay? It's called in most books a blunt haircut. And I say the word most because it is also called a page boy. P-A-G-E-B-O-Y. Or sometimes it's called a bob, like the man's name, B-O-B. And sometimes it's called a solid form. So you've got blunt, page boy, bob, solid form. It's all the same haircut. Use a stationary guideline and you cut below your fingers. There will be questions about guidelines, traveling and stationary. There'll be questions about cutting below your fingers or above your fingers. There'll be questions about razor cutting. When do you use a razor? What are the pros and cons of a razor? Okay? How do you cut the hair with the razor? Is it wet? Is it damp? Is it dry? About clippers. What kind of haircut is best done with clippers? What kind of haircut cannot be done with clippers? What is the proper angle for clippers? They love questions on razor cutting because most students, including myself when I was a student, are terrified of it. It's interesting to me how most barber students, hell, they'll shave your face with their eyes closed, but they're terrified of razor cutting the hair. Okay? Barbers, you're going to have questions about razor cutting the hair. Okay? Cosmetologists, you're going to have questions on clipper cutting the hair. When is it a good idea? When is it a bad idea? What does it do? What does it not do? Okay? When should you do it? When should you not do it? All of these questions are on your test over and over and over again. Hair cutting, 0, 45, 90, 180. There'll be questions asking you, at what level are you building weight in a haircut? At what level are you removing weight in a haircut? All of this stuff you have to know. Now, is your client ever going to ask you about this? No. They just assume you know these things. Your client's going to show you a picture and say, can you do this? They don't care how you do it. Okay? They just want their hair to look like that picture. It's up to you to know how to make that happen. But before you get there, you got to pass your test. Keep in mind, nationally, the barber pass rate is 30%, which means out of every 10 barbers that walk in, 7 walk out with the failure notice. Now, it may be higher in your school, maybe lower, right? These are national averages. I will tell you some states are higher than others. Utah has one of the highest pass rates in the country. Utah also has the highest high school graduation rate in the country, the highest college graduation rate in the country. Okay? We could go into a long, long, long debate on why that's true. It doesn't matter. It is true. Some states have even worse pass rates than 30%. The national average is 30%. 3 out of 10 barbers pass. For cosmetologists, the national pass rate is 50%. 5 out of 10. If you average those two together, here's what you get. 4 out of 10 people pass every day. That means 6 fail. I have gone many, many, many times to various state board testing centers. Some states have their still state board testing center. Most send you out to PSI or Pearson VUE. Over the years, I have noticed this. Everyone walks in very proudly. Ladies, sorry to say, you all go with your hair and your makeup done. Okay? And they come out crying. Okay? It's not fair. It's not right. Nobody told me. They're speed dialing on their phone, screaming and crying at all their friends. It's not fair. It's not right. Nobody told me. Okay, it's not fair. And it's not right. But I am telling you. I am telling you what's on the test. This book will give you every question and answer on the test in your state. So forget the it's not fair, it's not right. Nobody cares. All they care about is, did you pass the test? If you want to pass the test, here's how you do it. It's about 125 pages. There's between 600 and 700 questions, depending upon what state you're in. It gives you the question from the test. It gives you the 4 possible answer choices. Below that, it gives you the correct answer. And below that, it gives you the various textbooks and the various pages where you can find it if you're so inclined to go study more. Now, you have a couple of choices. You can order 7 textbooks on Amazon and spend about $1,400. You can order our textbook and spend about $50. You decide, okay? Or you can do it your way and just throw caution to the wind and say, I'm not going to be in the 60% that fail because I know everything. So just take your test. Now, keep in mind, 6 out of 10 people fail every day. Okay? Our pass rate's about 98.5%. I wish I could say 100, but I'm trying not to lie. Okay? We got about 98.5, which is way better than 40% that most schools have. Okay? Visit our website, www.cosmetologystateboardexam.com. Take our free practice test. Top of the screen says free practice test. Drop down screen, barber, cosmetology, aesthetics and nails. I encourage the barbers and the cosmetology students to take both tests, and you'll see how many questions are the same. And especially barbers, understand when you feel like you're taking a cosmetology test, that feeling is true. You are taking a cosmetology test with some shaving questions thrown in just for good measure. Give us a call, 760-534-4434, and hope to see you soon.